So guys, this is the build of the Death Company. What I'm going to do in this is build a single Death Company Marine with the jump pack, and what I've basically done is chosen all the parts that I think really sort of define the Death Company. I know in our unboxing of it we didn't exactly explain the fluff of this, but the fluff will be covered. Basically these guys have fallen to the echoes of the death of their Primarch Sanguinius. And they've become a ball of fury, basically a ball of fury that's painted black with red crosses on them. These are the most unique set of infantry that the Blood Angels get. So anyway, we're going to go through the build. We're going to show an example of building one of these guys up, and what I really want to focus on is how to actually pose a model like this. The processes that I personally go through to see what parts fit with what torso, what arms fit with what legs, and basically just sort of try and work the pose up from the parts I've got. So I've chosen the parts that I think give a nice dynamic pose or a nice imposing pose to the model. So if I move the box out of the way, we'll get started. So what I've laid out here is just basically the myriad of parts that we actually require to build our Death Company Marine. I have the bits for the backpack. I've got the chest plate, the back plate, shoulder guards, and everything. Now what I'm going to do now is take most of these parts away, and we're going to start by putting the legs to the base. Then we're going to build the torso. From the torso we're going to glue the jump pack onto that, I think. We'll then put the arms on. From the arms put the shoulder pads on, and then we're going to set the torso and the legs together. That way we can gauge the pose of the model before we actually finish building it. So let's start off with the legs and the base. So slide all this stuff out of the way. So I'll just centralize my base in our close cam shot for you. And the set of legs we've chose is this, like a nice stamping sort of, I've just crashed down from my jump pack and I'm ready to go. So that's the sort of pose I'm really trying to aim for here, is something a bit more aggressive, a bit more intimidating. So the first thing I need to do is take my glue and add a stripe of glue to the bottom of each foot, and it's just a matter of pressing them down. Now the reason I'm doing this first is by the time we come to glue the torso to the legs, which will have a lot more weight on it with the backpack and the arms and such, this should be set enough so that it won't wobble and fall off on the feet. So I'll move this out of the way. Next thing I'll do is bring in my torso, and once we have this, we're now just going to glue this together. So I mean, just grip it in such a way that I can actually show you what's going on. I'm just going to apply glue to each side. Sorry if my hands are getting in the way a little bit. I'm trying to show you as best I can, but on a model this small it's a bit more difficult. And we've chosen this nice chest plate that's got plenty of blood drops on it, hanging from chains and whatnot, and a little skull and crossbones, so why not? Now these parts will just sit together. If you've ever built a Marine, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a couple of little pins that fit into a couple of holes that are in the back plate, and when they're pressed all together, we basically have our finished chest piece. So now, with the chest piece now ready, the next thing I'm going to do is build the jump pack. Again, we just have two pieces that just sit in together, and we've chosen a nice one that has the Death Company crosses on it. There are ones in the box that don't have these. What Warren and I were thinking more of is taking those ones out and putting them into regular Assault Marine sets. So once again, we just have to glue along the outside lines, trying not to use too much glue as we work along, and work it along like so. That should be enough. We'll then just take the top of the jump pack, and that just sets down on top like so. So we'll make sure that that is sitting good and proper. Make sure there's no excess glue or whatnot accumulating around the edges, around the glue lines. So that's now done. So what's the next step? Everything we do from now to the end of the build basically focuses on the pose of the model. We have the torso, the backpack, and the legs. when we start to put the arms on, we're starting to affect the pose of the model. So what I'm going to try and do here is show you a little attempt at sort of dry fitting. We can't dry fit technically, because if we did, we'd have to actually pin the arms to the shoulder, which is not a bad plan and not a bad idea to pin all that, so you can change the poses and see what works best for the model and what suits your own taste. So when we take this chainsword arm, we're going to see that he's sort of holding it out, but I don't really want him to be holding it out. I want him to be holding it more down at rest, because the bolt pistol arm I've chosen for this guy is more out and shooting. So the focus of the model, I think, is definitely going to be focused on where he's pointing that bolt pistol, which I think will complement the legs that I've chosen quite well. So it really can be a matter of actually taking the parts, clipping them all out, and just seeing what complements each other. There are physical styles, of course, where certain chest plates will suit certain backpacks, certain arms will complement each other quite nicely. But if you just ignore the actual physical styles of the parts and just go, right, okay, this guy needs to look aggressive. Let's pick arms, I want him to look aggressive. There's other ones you can pick where, okay, I want this guy to look like he's just landed with the jump pack. So technically, with the jarring of the impact, you could argue the point that his arms will be down because he's just put his full weight into landing. So we'll see. We're just going to glue our bolt pistol arm to the torso. So all we need to do is a small dab of glue in the middle. Less is more in this case, because the less glue we put on, the faster this is going to set. Now, with the bolt pistol arm, I kind of want him to be holding it pretty much level, but maybe have the torso arched forward a little bit, so he's more looking down the way with it, and he's having to force his head to look up to stay level with the area that the bolt pistol is pointing at. I could be rambling on, but I think, well, if I start to glue this arm on, I think I can sort of see my own plans come together sometimes. So with this chainsword, I'm going to have it pointing low, pretty much have his arm stretched out straight down below. I'll have to take this out of shot for a moment, just so I can see for myself what way I think this is going to work out. So it can be a matter of trial and error. Some arms may not complement each other as much, but that's the beginning of the pose of the model. So the sword's sort of down while he's taking a couple of shots with the pistol before charging in, basically. This chainsword arm could equally be used for a charge sort of stance, with him actually holding that out and choosing a different bolt pistol arm, or angling that one down, so looks like he's got more forward motion. But the legs I've chosen, his feet are firmly planted on the ground, pretty much. So he looks like he's more getting ready to go. That's sort of the plan I had in my head. Right, so we're going to start to detail this guy up a little bit. I'm going to stick the shoulder pads on. Now, the two shoulder pads I've got is this one, which has two blood droplet hanging from a couple of chains, which has the red crosses on it, and then this one, which is the more standard, nicely carved blood angel symbol. Now, this one is going to go, our actual chapter symbol is going to go on the left shoulder plate, and the Death Company one is going to go on the right shoulder plate. And I've chosen this arm specifically because this complements the pose. These blood droplets are hanging straight down, and his arm is more or less hanging straight down. So we're going to take this arm and we're going to glue the shoulder pad onto the right arm. And you'll see what I mean by choosing parts that complement each other. So if I lift this out of shot, just for a moment, I make sure it settles down properly onto the model. I'll have to add a little bit more glue, and just generally that top area that the shoulder pad covers, just give that entire area a layer of glue, just to guarantee that you've got contact between the parts. So what we have ended up with is something that complements the pose. So the arm is straight down, the little blood droplets are sort of waving in the wind, or waving from the fact he may have just landed with that jump pack, but they're not blowing in any sort of direction, they're not moving in any specific direction. We'll then take the chapter icon shoulder pad and just glue that on as well. So same principle here, take the glue and just spread it out across that whole shoulder section, just so that we know we've got contact, and just press it on. And again, we'll just adjust that a little bit, like so. Now if we move that to the side for a moment, we'll start to let that set. What should we do next? Well, I think it's time we actually glue the jump pack to the back of the Marine. So we'll actually bring our guy back in, and we'll bring the jump pack in. Now, the jump pack is just basically going to need glue along this entire flat back area. So I'll just add some glue to this if I can get myself more centered in shot. And just add glue around the outside of that area and just into there as well. Now this is why we're not going to put the head on immediately, because now we can line this jump pack up with the cross section of the back of the gorget on the armor. So when I press this piece on, I need to lift it out of shot just for a little bit and guarantee to myself that this is level and is sitting pretty square. So that's basically what we're looking for there, a nice squarely set jump pack on this guy here. So with that done, I'm now going to bring the legs in, and we need to centralize that a little more so I can show you what's going on. So now when it comes to gluing our torso to our legs, we have a wondrous big glue point here on the top. So again, we just want to cover that and spread our glue out as much as possible without using too much glue on it. Again, because we want this to set rather fast. Now, what are we going to do? Well, if I have a look at him and study his pose a little bit, I think something twisting off to the front like that is going to be pretty cool. So if I have his body angled forward as much as I can get it on that set of legs, that more or less just brings the bolt pistol level. So you can now see what kind of pose I'm sort of working for here. This guy has just landed, taken a bit of a step forward, and is now shooting with the bolt pistol, while the chainsword is being held low, ready to advance. So I've got a little accessory piece that I'm going to add before we put the head on. I've got this little dagger and a couple of grenades. So if I lift the model up for a moment and try and find, you know, a good spot to actually place this, somewhere that is sort of lacking in the detail, I'd say is just under this arm, and we're going to glue it against the actual belt of the torso armor. So I need to add some glue to there. I need to add some glue to the top of that thigh and maybe work it down the leg a little bit. And let's see what way we're going to work this. So with the model here, we're going to clasp it. Hopefully the grenades are going to clasp it about there. What I've ended up with is that. So the dagger is a little bit more around the back of the model, but it still makes him have a slight appearance of more dynamicness about it. So the very last thing we need to add is the head. Now the head is obviously going to have to be pointing more or less, the head will have to be more or less pointing in the direction of the bolt pistol, because as I said at the start, the bolt pistol is more or less going to be the central focus of the actual model. Again, I'm just going to have to re-glue this for a moment. Just make sure that everything is sitting tidy again. Don't worry, this happens. The best of us will get it wrong. And we may find at some point, if a part falls off like that, we may find an alternative area for that part to sit, although we've pretty much got it back where I originally placed it. So I'm happy enough with that. Just sitting around a little bit further at the back, so it has just moved out of the way a little. So bringing our guy over here, so we're going to basically make him look in the direction of the bolt pistol. So drop a glue in there and place the head down in. Now if I turn him away from the camera just for a moment so I can play with the pose a little bit, get him nice and intimidating looking, And the trick is to try and get his focus on the focus of the bolt pistol and what he'd be looking at while shooting with that pistol. So that's what you're basically getting. Hopefully something that seems quite nice and aggressive and quite dynamic, without having to really chop and change parts too much, or actually at all in this case. The Death Company box has a lot of scope for some nice dynamic poses like that. So that's basically it, guys. Hopefully that's helped you with figuring out how you want to pose your models when you come to actually build the likes of the Death Company. Hopefully you've taken a couple of things away from this. If you do anything different, please let us know. I'd be interested to try some different ways of trying to pose models without cutting it. But that is the crux of the matter, is to get a good pose without having to resort to the craft knife to chop away legs and arms. I know a lot of guys do it. I do it myself sometimes. Well, let us know what you think. Put your comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.